you're going to hear really clearly, because this time I don't interrupt too much, how bright Joleon Lescott is. Funny, hugely articulate. You're going to hear him smiling, looking gratified at the way that his life has turned out. You're going to probably tell people about the way in which he explains his dyslexia, how he's learned to cope, and how he's turned that, frankly, to an advantage. This is a lucky man who's talented, determined, who adores music and will explain why. And yes, he does remember what vinyl and LPs were for. He's also fully aware that in being a player mentor at Manchester City, in being somebody who can teach them standards, who can select those that need help rather than just being left to their own devices, he's in work which is going to keep him happy for the remainder of his career if he chooses. This is one funny, bright, friendly, interesting man. I promise you, on my honour, you're going to love this. Joleon, you won't be used to my style.
Yeah.
So I may gush a little bit, I may get a little bit sort of flowery with my words because I still find this process really exciting. So I'm kind of delighted to be talking to you, a footballer of real merit, a footballer with articulacy and trophies galore. But you also win the award for the earliest big interview ever. But please could we testify to those who won't believe me that it's currently 7:23 in the morning?
Yes, it is.
And you've had about 2 hours sleep.
Yeah, well, it was probably about 4 hours. I got into bed around 2:30 and then up.
Do you know the thing I really like when because in the old days, just before I came into the game, journalists and players travelled together. And subsequently, when I've been doing TV production with Spain during the tournaments, you travel with them, so you travel their hours.
Yeah.
And people don't realise that footballers who maybe would kick off at 9 o'clock at night in a foreign country in the Champions League, whatever, they'll play, they'll come back, get changed in the stadium, they'll do their media duties, they'll file off to the airport. I think everybody in the public just switches off their mind then and think, footballers are just kind of like special toys that get put in a cupboard and come back out again. But you wait at the airport at 1 a.m. like ordinary people, the bags get delayed, planes don't take off. You get back home pumped full of adrenaline after a 2-hour flight from, I don't know, Prague or Moscow, 4-hour flight. And into your bed at 6 o'clock, and then it's training at 10 o'clock or 10:30 the next morning 100%. Again.
That's the thing, and then there's sometimes, as you're saying, just touching on the bag situation, if you're flying into Manchester and you're a City player and the bag handlers are United fans, then it tends to take a little bit longer.
Things just, they'll be here in a minute.
Yeah, of course.
I've seen that in Madrid when Guardiola's Barcelona used to go to Madrid. And they would come back. And there's a particular brand of cop, the Guardia Civil, and a particular uniform you can tell. And they're not overly fond of Barcelona. And everybody would be checked 3 times, or as you say, bags might suddenly be, I just need to take a look in this bag. And all done in the best possible taste. But that slows you. And I like the rhythm, but I don't think we fully appreciate the internal resources you've got to have to be. Because if you've had that long flight, maybe the next morning's training, and that's been throughout 15, 20 years of your life, next morning's training might be a warm down, it might not be ultra intense, but you're kind of judged on every training. So even if you've dragged yourself out of your bed after a long flight overnight, maybe even had to pack the kids up to school, whatever it might be, when you come into work after 2 hours sleep the next morning, you've still got to be at it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's the level of professionalism that comes with being a footballer, regardless of time, sleep, anything, rest, it just has to happen. And as a fan, public probably don't see that, but as players you just kind of are used to that, and it's never, can't be bothered, or it's never that, it's that's what has to happen, and we have to go in and just get on with it.
Because when people talk about pressure, I think they look at footballers and say, well, our pressure moment is a big game, or the fans are really expecting you to win this trophy, or whatever it might be, but it's like a low-level buzz of pressure every minute of every day while you're a successful professional footballer in a million different ways. Never drop your guard, never drop your standards, always worried about, have I got the physical resources, have I got the mental resources, who's watching me, what does the coach think, is a teammate better than me, just every minute
there's a constant pressure that comes with playing, and that you put on yourself due to the fact that you want to get the best out of your own ability. And as I said, the way the game's going now, it's probably more of a physical demand with the speed and tempo of playing. But throughout my career, I kind of obviously suffered injury early on, so I kind of knew that I would potentially have to work a little bit harder physically to kind of just be fit and just be regarded as, oh, he's got a dodgy knee, which did happen regardless of the efforts I put in away from the field. But yeah, there is a constant pressure, I would say, that comes with playing a football, but it's just part of it, and I don't want many players that didn't enjoy all that process, because as I said, if you don't enjoy the process, then you can't, again, live on the reward that comes at the end.
It's funny how often we come in these conversations back to the fact that your biggest competition is with yourself. Your energy, your standards, your attention to detail. But not unusually for me, I put the chapters of the book in the wrong order, because we're here at one of the clubs where you succeeded and where you won your most significant trophies. You're now, it's boots off and then you can rest a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're principally here because I'm really fascinated by what you're doing right now at a club which is quite, I think, at the forefront of ideas in modern football. So that I don't misdescribe it, tell me what your current role is, particularly with a view to loanees.
Yeah, initially it was called Loans Team, Loans Department, but we just kind of want to come away from that, because it's just the feel around loanees. There's been some documents and players from other clubs talking about how that makes them feel, being known as just the Loans Team, and we don't want to kind of enhance that for all that feeling. So we're trying to encourage the players to feel we're just part of their development at this stage in their career. So a development team, and again, being one of the most high-profile people on that team, I don't want that discourage the effort and stuff that goes into it from the other members. We've got a physio, Scott. We've got a strength and conditioning coach, Neil. We've got another coach, Gazwali, who's played the game. Sinan, who was roughly maximum 2 years older than the players he's working with due to the
connection.
Yeah, so, and he had to stop through a life-threatening injury that prevented him from playing. We've got 2 analysts, Bulhar and Spanish, and Sam, and then a site called Philippa. And then we're all headed by Fergal Hawken, who's kind of the team leader, and he's been doing this role for a number of years on his own, and the number of loanees hasn't really changed. So there's been times when Fergal's been looking after 30 players a season on his own. He's had to be all them parts of the jigsaw, kind of the physio, the psych, the mentor. He's had to do it all on his own. And as I said, for a number of years, he's been trying to put this team together. And I've known him before our City careers. We joined City at the same time, but really? I've known him since I joined the Premier League. He worked at Nike, who were my sponsors at the time, and we just had a great relationship from then. And then obviously joining City in the same summer kind of enhanced that relationship. And then he asked me to do this pretty much after I'd stopped playing, which come at a surprise, to be fair, because I did want to continue playing last season, but the options weren't realistic for me at this moment in time. And then Fergal asked me, do I just want to watch some games? And I thought, yeah, I'm not doing anything. But when I came in, they kind of had an idea of what they wanted me to do before they told me. So I came in thinking, I'm just going to be watching games for the next few weeks and seeing how that goes. And they was like, no, this is what we're doing. We'd love you to be a part of it. I was like, yeah, 100%. If I could honestly pick a role, this would be it.
Wow.
Helping, because I had a mentor, Terry Connor, when I played, and I didn't appreciate him until later on in my career.
Terry Connor?
Yeah, he's Mick McCarthy's number 2.
So that relationship with Terry began at Wolves?
Yeah, I was literally coming out of the youth team, and it was old reserves then, so he was like reserve team manager. He was the guy that kind of helped to transition from youth team reserves into the first team. So I would have been 16, 17, and again, moving through the system a little bit faster. Back then it was different, but I just couldn't see how he was helping. I was just like, why is he on my back? Why is this guy always picking on me to do everything? If I make a mistake, it's highlighted. And then I kind of got into the first team, and he didn't let up. He didn't stop, because it was like, well, now you're where you want to be. It was like, we go again. And I was like, I can't understand it. Is it personal or... And then I realised he'd seen something in me, and it wasn't until later on when he explained that he thought, you'll have a positive reaction to the way I treat you. And not everyone has that or had that, and I'm thankful to him for that, because I wouldn't have been the player I am if it wasn't for him.
Two things strike me before, because we need to come back to what you were comparing Terry's work to in Fergal's team and your current work. You said you realised.
Yeah.
How? Because it had been, oh, he's in my ear, it had been irritating or worrying, or maybe even got you a bit chippy about like he's always on me. How did the realisation come?
Because it was working. And obviously my older brother played football, and he'd explained to me that you don't get to complain about anything in football. And again, it was probably not necessarily all the time right in the way coaches and players were handled back then. It was totally different to now. Mm-hmm. There wasn't no safeguarding issues or stuff like that. It was like, if I tell you to do it, you do it. And that was the way, the mentality I had, due to the fact that my brother said, if they ask you to do it, you do it. And if you can't, they'll notice that you can't, but you've tried. I was like, yeah, that's fine, I can do that. My mum and dad, the same kind of thought process. Someone tells you to, if a grown-up asks you to do something, you respect that, and you do it. And they was big on that, so I just kind of embraced that. And then it was first time I'd met TC, and I'm training. We're doing a canal run, and my first pre-season with the first team. I'm 16. I'm new to this. I don't run the way they was running, back the way the players run back then. And we came to roughly the halfway point of this run, and no one was around. Well, I thought no one was around, and I was sick. It was that hard. I was physically sick on the floor, and I just thought, I'm sick, so I'm just going to have to carry on. I'm halfway from home. I can't stop. So I'll just carry on. And he seen that. Didn't tell me till years after.
Wow.
And he said, I noticed that, and I thought, is something in him? Because most players would have just stopped, complained, or would be going like, well, I was just sick. I didn't mention it when I got back to anyone, because it was just, look, what can I do? I was sick 2 miles, 3 miles down the road, so we're not going to go back and do anything. So I just kind of got on with it, and TC said that was the moment he knew, or he thought would be able to cope with what it's needed.
Because your character and
resilience.
But
and as I said, that was he'd met me for roughly one of the first times. We'd known each other 2 or 3 days, so for him to kind of be that judge of character also helped me realise that he must have been in situations like this to know. You can't just guess that. And then, as I said, I do see myself as quite strong-minded. So, yeah, it was never a hindrance. It was a frustration at times, very frustrated. But as soon as I realised, it made me more determined to kind of lean on him, to work harder at stuff people didn't appreciate at that time. There was like footwork and gym stuff. That wasn't a thing. Like, people didn't do what's called now pre-activation. You did warm downs, but they would literally massage, and you come in and that in that era I'd probably have a couple of beers.
I remember when warm down started, and I remember across the media people were laughing.
What is that?
Now it's
the second day recoveries. There is like 2 day recovery sessions after games that are more intense than others. And as I said, I was kind of coming out of the old generation of thought process to the new era, and as I said, I've seen a real opportunity to kind of enhance the abilities I was looking to have, and TC was definitely a part of that. And that's the thing I enjoy now, is when I speak to players and I can generally feel that they're getting something out of what I'm saying, and that is like the ultimate buzz for me, to know that potentially, and you're 25, 26, and these players are at 18, 19, you're going to look back and think, that was right then.
It's a mini variety of parenting.
Yeah. As I said, I wouldn't want to say that now, because I know at the time, as when I was these players' ages, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, no, you're not disrespecting my parents, and my parents to put the background in for this amount of time. So I know what you're saying, but the mentoring side of it is the most appealing to me than any other thing. And I would have chose that, to be honest, before.
It's fine, because it comes out in, as well as your words, it comes out in your anybody who smiles as they say something, you know that's truth and satisfaction coming out. It's really, you're speaking to somebody who's really excited and happy with the brand of work he does every day. And we're lucky, the three of us around this table, you're particularly enthused by that, what you can translate to people and how you can mentor them and guide them and advise them and help them. But anybody who finds that their working day is enjoyable, that's a rarity. And we're all pretty blessed by that. And I wonder if the way that Fergal's incorporated you into this larger team it suits you. They've chosen you well, and you're somebody, it happens, that went through a mentoring process with Terry too. But it feels to me like Fergal's overall aim, your department's overall aim, is to try and make the process of what happens to guys who aren't necessarily coming through the steps in their own club much more monitored, managed, productive, helpful. Because we're not just, you've made it clear, we're not just talking about loans, but as a part of Fergal's work. Loans would have been pretty unscientific throughout the majority of our careers around football. And now that's not what you or City or Fergal's department wants to happen.
No, it's strange because I spoke about this with someone. He was a youth team player who, funny enough, he's Northern Irish, Gary Everett, and I seen him here he was on his pro license. They came over and we were talking then, and I took his place in the youth team at a young age, but we were very close randomly. He didn't kind of say, well, we're competition. He kind of took me on the wing. He's a couple of years older than me, and he was like, yeah, well, if you're going to be that serious, then I'll help you in any way I can. And again, grateful for that. But we were saying that you didn't go on loan back then. There was no loans. If you wasn't deemed good enough for a team, he was kind of released. He went like, go on loan for 6 months and then possibly come back when you're more capable of being able to play at this level. It was like, he's not good enough, so kind of don't want him. And he said he kind of felt that he possibly could have had a longer career if he did go on loan earlier. And there is a science behind what we're doing. We're not just sending players on loan because at this moment you're not deemed ready for Man City. It's like, no, we've looked at the science behind pretty much every Champions League player, and they've all played men's football, first team football at, I think it was 18 and a half.
At an advanced age.
Yeah, an advanced age. And that wasn't necessarily Messi playing for Barcelona A at them ages. He played for Barca B, but they were playing against men, so he had to cope with different things. And that is the kind of environment we want to expose these players to. It's not necessarily Man City's facilities, the nutrition side of it. You don't get that awareness. You don't get that provided. It's like, oh, this is a men's world. And one of the players now, I won't mention his name, but we were speaking the other week, and he was saying to me, in terms of ability, the 23s are possibly as good as the team he's playing with. And I said, well, how many do you think could play for the team you're playing for? And he said, 1, maybe 2. I said, don't you think that's weird? He said, yeah, I just said I'd never assumed that would be the case. He said, I just thought it was just stability, and that's what it was. And it was never, oh, he was coming on, or he was listening to a game. And he said his home fans were booing him. And he said, I was going on thinking, don't get booed, don't get booed. And I said, you've never had that thought process. You've never had that fear of, I'm going to get booed by my own fans here. Or there's pressure on you to kind of take responsibility. The players are looking at you. It's all right when it's the EDS and kind of everyone's as good as each other, but when they're looking at you to be that guy or to stop a goal going in, it's a different feeling. And then they're all aware of that, and they all appreciate of the other elements off the field and what comes with playing. That helps.
We're talking about obstacles, setbacks, pressure, an opponent bullying you who's bigger than you, or, as you say, irascible fans giving you grief. That the gap he was discovering or noticing was that the peers he saw were exceptional footballers who could play in whichever team this is, but he didn't think that they were all quite at that level of character or experience to handle the burden of playing men's football.
Oh, definitely, and I'm sure they're aware of that, but more so here because I'm again working with these players, and at pre-season I noticed that possibly 90% should have a career in football. The ability they have, they should have a career, but the mentality of that generation, not just the players at City, but society of that generation anyway, they don't have the mental process or thought process of it needs to be this, it has to be done this way every day. There's no days off, and they're probably looking at the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and think, I can play that pass. But can you play that pass when you're only going to get one shot in front of 40,000 people, and it might not come again? And that's the difference, and that's the kind of exposures we're trying to put forward to them. It's great when you're giving a dodgy ball to Sergio Aguero, who can then go past his man and score, but if that player's not Sergio Aguero and that ball is half great or half poor, and then the defender intercepts that, tackles him, and then all of a sudden it's in the back of your net. Can you cope with that? And as I said, there's lots of elements off the field as well that come with playing men's first team football, because a lot of men, and again growing up in the reserves where it was, if you didn't play in the first team, you played the reserve game on a Tuesday, and that was against someone that was even mad that he didn't play, so he might kick you. And also that, yeah, and also the fact that he's playing for his livelihood, like really, like he's got bills to pay, and it's not guaranteed next season, and I need to kind of give it all. And that's the thing, that obviously the higher level you play at, in regards to first team, when you get at any level, it's deemed a lot more important to the individual.
We came through, because you broadened it out there in a way that I like, and that across this, I don't know how many top-level coaches and players we've done in this series. And because I'm so much older, I often speak to people of my own generation, but you've touched on themes where they bemoan the change in society, whereby a lot of guys who come into, I don't know about girls' football and women's football, I don't know what transitions they're going through, maybe it's the same. So I speak about what I know, that young boys, young men coming into the game right now will predominantly, one, not have the same remorseless drive and hunger and will to succeed, or ideology where, like, I'm halfway down a canal, there's nobody here, the only way is to get my business done and carry on. And also mixed with the change in a lot of people's behaviour and perception in society, the fact was that football was very much like the worst of the British Army, with sergeant majors who could bully you, who could make your life a misery, and who could, in an unscientific way, poke you until you failed or you reacted and succeeded. So you're taking the fact that football needs those same traits of resilience, gutsiness, character, responsibility, self-development, at a time when society isn't actually providing you with the best raw material.
Yeah, again, I'm aware of most things. I don't know everything, obviously. I don't kind of say that, I'm Messiah and I know everything, but I do think there's a generational change. And as I said, it's funny because, again, I won't mention names, but I see people on shows and talking, and they're saying they can't cope with players celebrating a certain way, dancing around and taking selfies. I'm like, in your generation, after a game, you went and had a cigarette with a beer in the changing rooms and sat in a massive bath for 4 hours. And I'm like, how is that any better than what these are doing?
True.
I don't understand how you can just judge a player's character because he wants to dance instead of having a cigarette. And there was probably more people taking cigarettes and drinking beer than there is players dancing.
Many more.
Plus, I've got children, I've got a teenage son, so I'm kind of aware of the change of how it is. It's harder to communicate face to face. Like, me and my son have better conversations via text than we would have face to face. And we can be in the car on the way to football or whatever and not speak and be perfectly fine. And then I'll be away and we'll just text each other and it would be, again, fine. But I'm aware of that, and not everyone is, because there is a bigger generational gap in certain age groups and people and managers and players and stuff like that. So going back to kind of what it is, this generation, I do feel there's a lot more ability in this generation of players, and the fact that it comes a little bit easier to them in terms of ability, because ultimately you're being judged on what you can do with the ball, and most of them can do it when asked. But the mentality of doing it when you're not asked, that's the bit they kind of miss. Do it when no one's watching. Don't do it because you think someone's watching. Just do it. Don't care if, is he watching this rep? Is he looking now? So I can put my maximum effort in now when he's seeing it. But then when I think he's turned his back, I'll just slack off a little bit. And that's the thing that this generation of players and younger people, I think miss. I think they're just the self-determination to be the best. And the ones that do, you can see because they come through earlier and play for longer. Like Wayne Rooney, for instance, is one of the most determined players I've ever come across. He had to win, and that's the thing. Everybody wants to win, everybody. But he needed to win, And I was just like, wow, there is levels. There is a level of appetite that you need to be that good for that long. Ashley Cole, the same as like, he was the best he could be for 10 years. Like, people can't even think that long. People don't even remember what they were doing 10 years ago. So to be the best you could be every day for 10 years is ridiculous. And I just don't think we'll see that anytime soon. Obviously, you've got the likes of Messi and Ronaldo, but I just think the impatience in football as well hinders that process of someone like dominating for that long.
I don't mean to take this away from where we are, but because I lived in Barcelona for so long, because I interviewed him, because I watched his teams, because I've got to know bits about him and a lot about people around him, aren't we talking something similar about Pep Guardiola?
Yeah.
Not just what he's doing now at Manchester City. All those traits you mentioned about Ashley or about Wayne Rooney, or that maybe you exhibited throughout your life, that be the best, win, standards all the time, self-driven. Nobody else needs to judge me because it's all here, it's all on me. As you were speaking, I recognised him.
Yeah, you probably analysed it more than I have, because I've kind of made that conscious decision not to necessarily be around the first team as much, because I don't want to be that old pro that's hanging around. And I've been there when I'm listening to players talk about old pros. I'm like, wow, that's how you talk about people. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
No.
So I make sure I'm not around that much. But yeah, to be and to do what he's done, you have to have had that. There's no way. And the players and the staff, now I speak to the staff a lot more than necessarily some of the players, because there's only like David Silva, Sergio, Vincent that I kind of played with to kind of have that relationship with. But in regards to the medical staff, the kit staff, they're still the same personnel, and they love it. The fact that he's created an environment where you have to be professional. There's no alternative option. If you're not, you will not play. And that's the bit I'm gutted about I've missed. Not necessarily the style of play, because we had great times when I played and I was part of the team that won the league. So in terms of the trophies and stuff, that was great. But that side of it, I would love to have worked with someone that demanded it from everyone. And that's the thing I'm kind of envious of, is that he seems to be consistent with everyone. And that's not been the case with managers I've worked with or previous managers at other clubs. It's, oh, he can do that, but you can't. And I've seen that not necessarily with myself, but with other players. And
rules you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm just like, he gets away with certain things because he can do that, where that doesn't seem to be the case here. No, you have to do it. Everyone has to do it, or they don't play, or it's frowned upon. I'm like, that's the bit I would love to be kind of under and watching.
You remind me of, I think, a phrase you used when you chose to join City. Because I think you talked then about, at Everton, we'd like to do well, or at City it's an obligation. Even then, way before what you're saying, that you went, that club, which was lower in the table than the club you were leaving at the time, that club is just focused on win, look for the title. That's, have I made the translation right from what you were talking about to what you felt like then?
Yeah, again, I was lucky enough to meet Chairman Khaldoon, and at the time, he even made me feel like I was the most important person joining this club. And again, he probably did that with everyone. I'm assuming he did because he's that way. But for that moment, that was the case. And it just mirrored my thought process of, these want to win. I want to win. They are determined to win. That timing of it all was just perfect for me.
And I like seeing people thrive and succeed. And from that decision, league title aside, and the fun times and the high level performance and reasonable rewards, I'm sure financially, here you are at his club still feeling the same way and seeing an augmentation of that desire to win and the standards at a time when you're into a new branch in your life. It's a very satisfying parabola to listen to and to watch for me.
Yeah, no, again, he spoke about the club himself, spoke about where the club was going, and you kind of just, because no one's done in a small period of time what City have been able to do in these 10 years that they've been in charge, you kind of just like, okay, I kind of understand what you're saying, but there's no proof of anything yet because it hasn't happened anywhere. And then stuff starts to happen, you're like, these are deadly serious. These are deadly serious about what they're doing. And then you realise they have been so successful in pretty much every aspect of their life, every other business they've been involved in. And I hate to say that it's just a business for them, because it's not, because the way they've changed the community, they haven't just developed Man City as a football club. And I'm not just saying this because I'm part of that, but
there's a patent investment.
Yeah, 100%, and what they've done in this amount of time compared, and again, I don't really want to do that, but I will, to say what United have done in that is totally different. Like, obviously now, Man United have felt the need to have a women's team where that was standard, that was always going to happen, and the successful that has been evident on the pitch, and just develop the community, and obviously partner with so many other clubs. And the 10 years that they've been in control, they've done everything, barring win the Champions League, they've set out to do. And as I said, I don't think they're going to stop when they do reach that goal of the Champions League. I don't think all of a sudden it's going to be like, well, we've done what we set out to do, now we can rest. It's going to be like, well, what's the next thing? What can we do? And they're just going to continue to grow.
From a personal point of view, you've talked about what you wish to contribute to Fergal's department and to the part of the club in which you work, and you've talked about the owners and the manager's philosophy too. And, you know, if I'm right, you're talking about a branch of human psychology when you're talking about the youngsters that you'll guide or tutor or mentor. What do you think, because presumably it's relatively early days in this process of adapting into your role. We spent time yesterday talking about Ravel Morrison at United, who patently, by every witness I've ever talked to, was utterly exceptional.
Yeah.
And yet, without going into his case, the things prevented him from even being aware of how he was going wrong. What will the process of sowing seeds onto stony ground be like for you? Because there will be some, no matter how much human science you put into this, how much research you do, there'll be some who don't just not make it, there'll be some who you're like, I know you can do this. And you're fucking up. What were you?
That's the thing. It'd be hard to take, because try not to get too emotionally attached to the individuals. But
good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. That's harder than I thought it was. But I'm massive on respect. So there is 10 of us in this team. And because I've played and they can see kind of what I've done, and it's still relevant to them because they're out of an age where they see me play for Man City, not alone just play football. It's easier to strike a relationship naturally because we've come the same backgrounds in regards to careers, but I'm massive on respect. So if they feel a need not to give the same to our team members as me, because they think, well, the impact I can have is bigger than theirs, then that's when I kind of like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to come back around, and you shouldn't think like that, because it's just the way it is. If someone calls you, someone messages you, someone asks you to do something, you do it. If you can't, and there's an honest reason, not an excuse, there's an honest reason that you can't do it, then that's fine. But we're in it together, and we're only here to help them as an individual. So if they realise that and they want it, then we're all in. All of us are all in, and we'll give you kind of anything. But if I feel that it's being abused, not just me, but the other members of the team, I can kind of easily distance myself from that side. I can be like, well, you're not who I thought you were, so it's not a problem for me to say, you know what, do it on your own then. And if you make it, great. If you don't, it's not going to be my fault.
You're an impressive man, because not only have you evidently been well brought up, the values that I hear, there's a quarter of a century between us, nearly over. And I'm astonished to hear all that, but like, I love the way your mind works. Yeah. That's a bright mind. I'd strive for you. I'd work for you. I tell you that now.
It's just logic thinking, as I say.
You say that, but then you look around the world, and we both know that what you're expressing is no longer the norm.
Yeah.
And also even the process of stopping, thinking, compartmentalising what you can and can't achieve, how to do it, how you'll react to it. There isn't actually even, no matter what an individual person's like, there's not a lot of time in modern life to stop and go, I'm going to think, I'm going to process that, I'm going to plan. A lot of people, even those who do the best in life, kind of improvise off the cuff.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be as ordered in your thinking as you've just shown.
Well, again, it's the key of what, if you're ordered in your thinking, but then you can just speed up that process.
Yeah.
As long as you know what the method to it is,
Yeah.
you can go as fast as you want through that process, but this process is still the same.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to digest it all, and that's why top players do it. It's because they see faster, they know what needs to happen, but they just be able to do it faster than the players that can't, and that's what separates the two for me.
I'd like very much to move on to music, the role of music in your life.
Yeah.
I think it's a passion of yours.
Yeah.
Maybe even you're quite good at it.
Yeah. Well,
whether we share the same taste in music or not,
that is where generations are divided. Generations are divided when music comes along.
So tell me.
Well, yeah, music, DJing. Absolutely love DJing. My dad is a DJ, and not necessarily been around that enough to kind of just saying that's what I want to do. But I've always loved music and had decks at an early age, and was like,
decks, please.
Turntables.
For people that I know,
turntables.
You know, but
okay.
I'm the guy who sat in Arsenal and interviewed 3 first-team Arsenal players for a TV feature, and the gimmick we would do, we would take a box of LPs, records, with their face in the middle, a cover designed around them in sort of 60s style. They would look at it, they'd look through the box of records, say, no, that's not me, that's Mesut, and then, oh, that's me, and they'd take it out and show it. They did it all beautifully, and then at the end of the shoot, I said to them, do any of you know what these are? And they were like, no. Didn't know what LPs were, didn't know what they were for, didn't know what vinyl was. So I only interjected because I was like, so decks are what you play.
Decks, vinyls, you play that and that. So I had them at an early age when me and my older brother was sharing a room, and then kind of moved out of the house, roughly 18, and then kind of stopped, to be fair, wishing now I never stopped. Because obviously it's time consuming. You can't just do it for 10, 15 minutes here and there. You kind of, a few hours a day, and you kind of have to dedicate time to it and all that. And I stopped due to the fact that it was that time consuming, and my love and passion was only playing. So there was never an alternative. There was never, well, what are you going to do when you finish, or what would you do if you didn't? It was just like, wow, this is the only thing I'm doing. Like, I was never going to do anything else apart from play football. But I obviously got older and realised that I'd still love it. Obviously have the new version of vinyl decks now, they're called CDJs. So that's
I thought I was going to be able to keep up there.
Yeah, well, CDJs, basically, it's just CDs on turntables. Okay. So because of vinyl.
Played by laser?
Yeah, it's like gear connected to your laptop, and it's just all computerized now. So you don't really have any records. DJs carry laptops now or USB sticks, and it's a lot easier. If someone knocks your table, your records don't jump anymore.
Look at Joleon already trying to sell me the idea about like it's much safer this way.
Definitely.
My lip is sticking out like a diving board for Greg Louganis because there's no records anymore. Okay.
Yeah. They are making a comeback, but as I said, to carry 300 records into a building, which I've done with my dad, is quite hard.
You've actually had to do that.
And it wasn't record boxes, these were crates, so milk crates and bread crates kind of thing. So that was, I've been around them.
What would you, so that we tell the story properly, what music would your dad have loved to play rather than what the audience wanted to hear? So what were you hearing around the house?
No, my mum played more music around the house. It was like reggae revival and stuff like that. But my dad played soca, Caribbean music, and that he was known as soca master. So that was the kind of genre he played, and I think he enjoyed it. He loved soul. He only ever played soul in his car, and it was like real soul. So like.
So mid-70s Philadelphia soul? Or
I don't really know, because as I said, it was nothing I kind of admired or aspired to do or listen to, but that was the only thing. It was never, oh, Dad, put this on. It was, we're in Dad's car, so this is what he plays. We're in Mum's car, this is what she plays. So it was, we never got to say, again, that was a generation thing. You never got to say, Mum, turn the radio over. Can I turn the TV over? It was like, this is what we're watching. This is what we're listening to. Deal with it. So
I remember that. That
was that. Unlike my kids now that want the same song on 14 times for 2 hours in the car. It was a bit weird. But just being around music and doing that was kind of the start of subconsciously making me aware that I do enjoy the DJing. And
so as a DJ now, you'll spend a lot of time planning out the flow of the music, what needs to segue into one another.
Yeah, 100%. And
because you want the sounds to be right, or you want people to dance, or what's
and that's the thing. That's the closest buzz I've had to play in, and it was when I played out and I realised, like, I'm still a fan. And bearing in mind, I know what I'm going to play. Everyone has a set. You know what's coming up. You know what you're going to play. And I still get that same excitement.
So in other words, it shouldn't infect you inside. You go, wow, that's a good sound. But you're like, yeah, I'd pick that. Yeah, but man, the music.
And then to see people's reactions and be in control of people's emotions was like, wow. That, like, being in control of that to having been that controlled is totally different. Like, a bit, obviously not the same, but in a way similar to the football, that you score a goal, your team wins, people are on a high, you lose, the people on a low, where seeing people actually dance because you've played a song is like, yeah. But again, due to the fact that I've got 3 children, I've got a wife that sacrificed a lot, I cannot say to my wife, I'm going out every Saturday night to DJ. So,
but if you could,
to be fair, I don't even know if I could. I just love doing it. I'll do it more in the house. I am getting out to playing out a lot more, but just selected events, parties, and I don't just do it anywhere and everywhere. Because
it's not Joleon Lescott DJ for hire. It's no, with people you know more.
Yeah and no. There are functions that I've done which I didn't walked into it, but I will say that it is the most nervous I get to set it up, because I don't know. There's things I've done and will do and be uncomfortable doing, but that fear of wrecking someone's night, it's like, oh my God. But
also you're saying, because the buzz is high, you're saying, I'm going to do this, and are they going to react to me?
Yeah.
Are they going to enjoy it? Because if you do that, and I don't know if you follow him at all, but I'm friends with Kevin Bridges, and Kevin's a comedian, he's very successful, and we've been friends for a long, long time, and recently we were together, and he was saying, you know, I feel very akin to boxers, because he does boxing too, and boxers are out there, and it's them and the opponent in the ring. It's in comedy, you know, I imagine getting knocked out, it's like dying in your arse in front of 10,000 people when, you know, 2 or 3 lines don't work, and you're out there, and it's you and them. Now, I don't mean to add to your nerves, but like, it is you and them. Those tunes need to infect them and need to get the shoulders moving, then them out on the floor, or else...
Yeah, or else you're getting booed. You're not getting hired again. But no, again, it's very enjoyable and satisfying, and that's where I am, even kind of this stage of my life. I just want to be satisfied with what I'm doing. I don't just want to do something because I have to. Like, I haven't got the drive and the passion to go into full-time coaching yet. I just don't think...
You did say yet there, you know.
Yeah, I know, because I'm not sure if it's going to come. But at this moment in time, I love the diversity of what I do, what I'm able to do, and I enjoy that more than any one thing. Is the fact that yesterday I was doing something different to today, and I've been doing something totally different to tomorrow. And then when I've done that and I come back next week, I'm dad again. And I like the fact that in the space of a week, I'm doing 4 different things and giving them all the same attention, and that's what is good to me at this moment in time.
I can see the stimulus in it, but a lot of people would be tired out by it, and a lot of people like predictability, because not just because they're boring, but because they feel they can give of their best if they kind of know what's going to be asked of them, rather than new challenges or different areas, using different parts of your skill set.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm dyslexic, so being able to adapt and find, not many people did. And again, I was having this conversation with my mum, and we were saying, like, when I was younger, and thinking about it now, dyslexic wasn't a thing. You was slow. You was with this kind of special teacher, and that's kind of what I was doing. And then I found ways around. And it's only because I've seen stuff, and you find ways around reading or being exposed in a negative way. You're like, well, how do I solve this before it comes? And that's why I kind of think away things the way I do now, is because I had practice at a young age.
Problem solving.
Yeah, kind of.
Problem solving on the pitch, problem solving in your current role.
That's the thing.
It makes your mind very agile.
Yeah.
First person I ever met who I knew was dyslexic was Sir Jackie Stewart, the racing driver, and it happened to be that I had to write speeches for him. And because we're not taught to anticipate, I was typing out, I was giving him words, and he was like, you know, for a speech, this isn't going to work. And he showed me how, because he'd been making speeches all his life, how as a dyslexic, he could take a bundle of themes, a bundle of words, and manufacture them into something that he could then use, albeit that he was stripped of one of the basic tools in order to do that. And that was a big education to me. But also, aside from the mental agility that you and he evidently share, was the determination. Like, this isn't going to stop me for 1 second.
No way.
I'm going to find a way to leap over this and use the talents I've got, even though I've been given a barrier.
Yeah.
It's funny how often barriers are quite important in life. We spend all our time trying to take barriers down and saying, well, but a barrier is quite a good thing. I think,
of course, definitely. That was a good thing, because it just helped me think about things totally different, opposite. And there was one of the physios who I'm still close with. He feels his daughter was dyslexic, and it wasn't until we were talking about the traits, and I was like, yeah, and she does this, don't she? And she does that. And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, because that's how we used to deal with stuff. That's how the thought process comes to us a lot quicker, because we have to do that. We can't read them words. I can't see what sound that makes. And it's like now when I'm doing some of the homework with my children, there's times where I have to call my oldest in to help me and his younger brother, because he just gets it. It's not a struggle, but then common sense of certain things. And I'm like, how can you do that? Why would you do that? I'm thinking because academically he gets that side, and common sense side, he doesn't really understand that, possibly due to his age, that doesn't work like that. And that's the kind of element I've enhanced. The logic, common sense side of thinking was, well, I have to be good at that. If I'm not good at that, this has to be kind of tough, and just dealt with it.
I love the power and the agility of the human mind.
Yeah.
But I'm going to introduce a note of controversy. It's a horrible note, I'm sad to say. We get really good guests because football is full of lovely people. And we had Alan Smudger-Smith on the other day. And he said in a very robust manner that 1989 at Anfield, where he scored and made one, and Liverpool lost the title on the last day, was, without argument, the single most iconic moment in English league football. And he specifically called out Sergio Aguero and said, that isn't it. Oh. Now, I feel you've probably got a hint of bias in this argument, but can you make a case that he's wrong?
I know different eras, and obviously the kind of content is different now, but if you asked people of my age what happened then, you had to really describe what happened in that game and that moment for me to get where you were going. So we say to someone Sergio Aguero's goal, they know what you're talking about. There's only one goal that people would say. So do you remember Sergio Aguero's goal? Did you see it? Yeah, I've seen it, or I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about. If you say Alan Smith's goal and assist against Liverpool, what year was that? What game was that? What did it mean? And that's the way I would judge it off. Like, not necessarily the importance of it to him and them, but more so what society view it as. And it was Liverpool-Arsenal, which was a rivalry, but this is Man City, Man United. Like, surely that rivalry is bigger than Arsenal-Liverpool at any era. Like, and especially now, the fact that Man City are where they are, and the transition of the importance and the size of the clubs within the city. I definitely would say Sergio Aguero's goal.
Because you participated in it. Is it still alive in your head there somewhere? No. Does it ever crop up to you? Have you compartmentalised
Yeah, I've never... I watched that game, or that moment, them highlights, I think it was midway through last season. That's the first time I'd watched it. I haven't realised how important that Premier League was until I retired. When you're playing, it's just, well, that's what we was intended to do, and that's what it was. And now I look back and like to hear Steven Gerrard, who I think is an all-time great legend on and off the field, for him to say him not winning it like is a massive kind of disappointment, and he would potentially swap his Champions League for a Premier League. I'm like, wow, what I've done then is amazing to be a part of that. And one, to win it, but then to say you're part of the first time for a club of this size, and in 100 years, this would be as big a club as any in the world, I think, the way they're going. To say you were the first to do something is special.
I want to leave it on a character that I've never met, but I find fascinating. I have no idea what your relationship is with your ex-centre-half partner, but it's quite patent to me that Vincent Kompany is he's a pretty special individual. Quite patent to me that once he's out with this football environment, there seems to be few bounds as to. I've heard a lot of people saying to me he'll probably be president or prime minister.
100%. That would not surprise me at all. He could do academically and collectively. His thought process is very focused on whatever he's set out to do. He's done a number of things that most intelligent footballers will never do. To study for the Masters whilst we're challenging for the titles is ridiculous to me. And when I'm asking him why are you highlighting philosophy paragraphs on the way to games, he's saying because that's the way I have to focus. If I don't, I can't concentrate if I'm not concentrating. I'm just like, his just mind would wonder about everything if he wasn't focused on certain things. And we used to give him stick about it all the time. I was like, but that was the way he coped with the kind of mental side of the structure of what we were doing. He kind of geared his attention away from football more than most in order to kind of focus when he was on football. It was solely that, and a very, very intelligent person, human being. And as I said, it was great timing for us both. I remember when I joined and Kolo Toure was like the figurehead. He'd come from Arsenal, I'd come from Everton, but Arsenal he won trophies.
Mm-hmm.
And Vincent,
I think he was an invincible, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was an invincible, and a major part of that. But also, like Vinny was here, but Vinny had come from Hamburg, and it was deemed that who's going to play with Kolo? Who's going to be Kolo's partner? Not the best partnership. It was like, well, Kolo's going to play. He's captain, so who's going to play with him? And me and Vinny never had that competition element. But we spoke. There was one time where we was in the dressing room late for training, and he said, "Do you feel like it's that competition?" And I was like, "Yeah." Weirdly enough, I do, but it never felt like we was at competition with each other. It felt like there was trying to forge that between us. And then after that, our relationship just went from strength to strength. Unfortunately, I got injured because Vinny was playing right back. Mm-hmm. It was me and Kolo. Mm-hmm. Vinny was right back, and then I got injured, and then Vinny went centre half. And for him, then the rest was history. He was kind of determined he was going to stay at centre half, which he did, rightly so. And then after my injury, I was like, I've got that mental strength that he's got, so let me put that into place now and do what I need to do to get into the team. And did the same kind of focus and got back into the team. But then I quickly realised, a bit like Gareth Barry, who I haven't mentioned, who was again a massive, real hero of mine, even though I've played with him, because I'll go back to that. He was playing for Aston Villa reserves when my brother was at Aston Villa, in the position I wanted to play. Mm-hmm. So to see him do the things he did at that age, I was like, wow, he's like, and that was so he's a real hero, not just like someone that you make up or you can never get to. He's like a real hero of mine, and he knows that. And so a bit like him in the sense of, I realised that Vincent was going to play, so I needed to make our partnership the best in order to play in the team. Yeah. Gareth Barry knew that Yaya Toure was going to play, or say it was Nigel and Yaya kind of at the 2 and then the 3. He needed to make them be the best they can be, because then you were going to play. And I realised that. And unfortunately, the only person that probably didn't realise that, which had a great partnership at a time as well, was Edin Dzeko. Mm-hmm. He seen Sergio as playing, but didn't realise that Sergio plays well with Edin. But because he possibly got more plaudits, he kind of was like, well, you're not treating us the same. And I was like, I know what you're saying, but it's just not going to work like that at this moment in time. They're the spine of the team. Mm-hmm. If you play well with them, you will play every week. You're in. And that's what I realised. And I thought, well, if I can help Vinny play well and he can help me play well, then
you're automatic as a partnership.
We're going to play. And there was managers and coaches that tried to change, but ultimately it kind of came back to me and Vinny.
I really love the way that you phrased that. We beat them. Ultimately came back to me. I really love the way that you phrased that. Again, you're showing, I'm not blowing smoke at you. I love hearing smarts, you know, just dissecting something, picking your way through it. And you surprised me there. I raised my eyebrow because when you talked about Gareth, I remember as a junior journalist in England before I moved to Spain, trying to speak to him as a young kid. He was very shy, very quiet, but
it's still the
I
same.
was drawn to him because I was like, how are you doing those things at that age with this pressure and doing it as if it was water off a duck's back?
Because it is to him. I seen a coach. I was down at West Brom visiting a player, and they said they called him the least emotionally attached footballer they've ever met. Nothing phases him, and it's right. Nothing can deter him away from what he's due to do. If he's meant to be there or meant to do this, it's getting done because that is what is being asked of him, and he's a true professional.
I share your point of view, but I also like to hear that expressed between professionals. I really enjoy it. We are fortunate enough to have sponsors. Bet365 have sent these questions in to us for you. Now, you've touched on one of this, but my memory is that when everybody was jumping on top of Sergio Aguero in that most iconic moment ever for English football, you did something different. So Bet365's question is, describe how you felt when Sergio Aguero scored that famous goal against QPR.
Oh, relief, excitement. Remember running to the physios, because what people don't realise is they work longer hours than the players, and they are there. Probably them and the kit men, along with obviously the manager, are there day in, day out, every minute of every day, every training session. They have to be there. So having spent time with them people, and majority of them are City fans. I'm not lucky enough to work at the club, but I remember running to them and just literally jumping into them and thinking, someone's better catch me, because this is going to hurt a lot of people if you don't. So I remember just jumping and just grabbing about 4 grown men at the same time, and literally we was all squeezing each other as hard as we could. And I don't remember how I felt, but I remember kind of how that felt, and it was like relief and excitement and just happy, just like...
It's funny, like, you obviously felt a little bit of gratitude to these guys for what they've done for you during your career. So to have in your crowning moment a bit of gratitude, but I think it's a special person who, when the crowning moment of your professional career comes, the greatest joy you can take is other people's joy.
Oh yeah,
I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, that was there again. That was like, it means so much to them as it did us. But it was weird because after then we kind of went into the dressing room, and pretty much everyone had 5 minutes to themselves. Like, people were ducking around and going, sitting in, like, I remember sitting in the other side. I'm sure Vinny went into the showers, Micah and Joe did what they're going to do. Because, again, it was new to us. There was players that didn't do that because they'd won stuff and they'd know what that emotion, they felt that emotion, but an overwhelming emotion of what have we just done was kind of what a few of us went to separate ourselves and just gather our thoughts.
That's really interesting because just by luck, the Spain team I was working with, they allowed me in the World Cup winning dressing room. So I went in, I was shy and I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
I literally hugged the wall. It was joyful, getting excited even thinking about it. We were allowed in, the Queen, the Prince, and that tenor, Placido Domingo, roughing it out, a scarf around his head, face painted, crying like the Gaza on Spitting Images with just floods. And after about 4 or 5 minutes, everything went quiet. Yeah. And I thought, this should be madness. Jumping, screaming, hugging, whatever. But everybody was like, there was a 10, 15 minute period where there were, you said everybody was in their own little zone or private thing. And I was so confused. How can that, a crowning moment of your life, but maybe you've helped explain it. But
yeah, well, for them, again, they're used to that. It was never going to be their last time. They probably thought, this is not going to be the last time we're doing this.
Probably.
So
probably not.
Let's enjoy it, but also on to the next. And I'd like to know what David Silva was like then, because he is the most humblest man I've come across. Like, not even in football. He's so humble. It's ridiculous. I'm just like, he's very appreciative of like the achievements, I'm sure, but I'd like to see him lose control. I'd love to see that, which I don't think you're ever going to see. I don't think there's ever going to be a possibility there.
I've never seen it. Whenever you talk to him, you know that it's not his first joy talking about football, but he's got this little quizzical look about his eyes and a hidden little smile. Talents aside, I find him an intriguing guy,
Yeah.
and I think he's still underappreciated in England.
Yeah, I think like the fact that this season he's getting more.
Good.
Off the back of last season,
Good.
he's getting a lot more attention. He probably hates it.
Yeah.
He's probably having to do.
It's not what he
interviews.
lives for.
No, honestly, he's the one that doesn't live for that, and yeah.
The last one that Bet365 sent into us is they want to know who's the toughest striker you came up against in any way.
Louis Saha, what King Louis, like what a player.
That's a Jungle Book reference, everybody.
I was at Wolves, he was at Fulham, and I've played against Messi, Ronaldo, and greats. I'm not saying he's better than them as a player, but what he did to me, to what I had no control over, that's the difference. Like, you play against players and you make mistakes, and you're like, they were great, but I don't normally do that, so I'm not going to judge it off that. I didn't do anything wrong to Louis Saha, and he exposed me to the full capacity to make me think that there are totally different levels to this. They were top of the league, Fulham, and we was at Wolves. They'd scored an average of 2.3 goals a game. They came to Molineux, we drew 0-0. I got man of the match.
Whoa.
I'm not thinking I've arrived. I'm thinking, yeah, I've had a good game, this, that, and the other. 3 weeks later, we play them in the cup. Wolves, they're still top of the league, obviously. We're trying. Louis Saha now must be thinking, I need to up my game. He probably didn't lower his game, but he probably just thought, Wolves are mid-table kind of thing. We've been scoring 3 goals a game. We're going to get these chances. Now he's thinking, let me turn it on. I'm not thinking I've made it, but I'm thinking, wow, this is not as hard as what people are saying. Wow. And he just exposed me. He took a free kick and a pen. He scored the free kick with his left foot, scored the pen with his right foot. And they won 3-0. And I remember after that game, Colin Lee, my manager at the time, saying, learn from that, son, but don't ever let it discredit you, what you're about to do. And I was like, I need to retire. Like, he really exposed me, which made me kind of wake up and be like, yeah, there's levels.
I've met him once at Michael Carrick's testimonial, and special guy, but I've never heard anybody talk about him quite like that.
Yeah.
So, fabulous. And before we say goodbye, you promised me esports
because that is another passion that I'm getting into, and that is bigger than what people assuming it is. It's coming through now to the fact that, like, obviously most Premier League teams have players, full-time players, and they reckon by the 2024 Olympics that's going to be an Olympic sport. Like, men can play women, young can play old. There's no physical disabilities. Kind of, it
unites.
Yeah, everyone, because you don't even have to speak the same language and anything like that. It's just kind of, it is what it is, and it's a real thing.
Are you good at it?
Yeah.
That's the perfect answer.
Good.
All right,
Thank you.
Well, let's do the pre-Olympic interview when you're representing England.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that gold medal is coming back here.
Yeah.
What a flipping pleasure this has been, and an education, Joleon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
It's been a joy.
Cheers.
An absolute joy.